That turned up. It don't look like it used to.
It's bright. It's bright on YouTube. Yeah. Is it really gonna make a difference?
It just look like it's this heavenly white light.
We should look like we have heavenly white light on us. Turn the air off. The air is louder. So that's much better. Anke Maat on Facebook and Anke Maat YouTube family. All right. Give thanks. Dua for joining us for our regularly scheduled communion. I know it's been a couple of weeks. As we mentioned to you guys, we were in person. We had an in-house cookout on the date of our what would have been our last communion, August 9th. So we were not on live. And we have put the Crook and the Flail on a brief hiatus, like a little bit of a summer break for the Crook and the Flail. So we haven't been on for that either. So we've been thinking about you guys, and we're really grateful to be back in this space with you all again today. I'll give my aunt. All right, do you want to get started with the opening prayer? And then we can go into roll call. Okay. All right, so dua everyone, please let's get started. Please join me with our opening prayer by saying Amatu Panatir, Sawek Tuament Panatir, Au Duauma, Kedi Paharu. The translation is give yourself to Netter daily, keep yourself for Netter daily, and may to do it tomorrow as you do it today. We give homage to the Creator, who is like our Father and who is like our Mother, who is everything that we can perceive and everything that we cannot perceive, who is everything and yet is no one thing, who comes to us in the form of the Netzeru Ra, who is the light of the heavens, light of the inner planes, as well as the light of our lives, who shines the light for us on the path of Ma'ati, which is the path of truth, justice, righteousness, and harmonious balance, who comes to us in the form of the light of vitality, giving us the strength and the endurance to live and act upon that which we know to be true. Homage to you, the one who shines in and through us as a beacon of light for those who are blind to the facts of their place, their position, and their responsibility in the divine scheme of things. May we be Ma'akaru, true of thought, word, and deed, to our highest reality. And in our moments of crises, in the dark nights of the soul, when it appears that everyone and everything else has let us down, so it is, and so shall it be. Everyone say, Amen Ma'at, Ma'akaru. To our netter. All right, everyone. Well, let's dive right into our roll call then. Let's see who's on. I see the numbers going up. Dua for joining us. Welcome to Communion. So let us know that you're here and let us know where you're joining us from. Let's get that roll call going.
Darlene chimed in first from the Bronx.
Yes, she did. Give thanks. Jason is on from Lincoln, Nebraska. What's up? Uncle Ma'a Anitra from Spartanburg. I see Von Sill in the house from Cleveland, Ohio. Good to see you, love. Philly is in the building. Bloomfield, New Jersey is in the building. Flint, Michigan is in the building. Peace and love. Peace and love to you. We've got Atlanta, Georgia. Yeah, Delaware is here. Nice, nice. All the way in from the West Coast. Autanogton, Ankarapata. Battle Creek, Michigan. Nice. Good, good. Some more Atlanta, Georgia in the house. Hyattsville, Maryland. Yes, yes. All right, well, give thanks. Oh, East Orange is in the building. Shout out to Ashanti. That's Ashanti. Don't give my eye, sis. All right. Columbia, Maryland. Nice, nice. Irvington, New Jersey. The vibration getting up in Maryland. Yes, I love it. All right, good to see you all. Give thanks, give thanks. And PA in the building, nice. All right, so let me just share a quick announcement. Some of you might have seen the event posting go up for an upcoming event that we're hosting called Kemmunion in the Cloud. I am really, really, really excited about Kemmunion in the Cloud. Kemmunion in the Cloud is a virtual experience that we are really, really happy to be able to share. Something like this in the past, I would have, wanted to do it in person. And because of everything going on in the world, we have been reimagining the way that we connect with people and the way that we reach out to people, and just wanting to be able to do more to keep the lines of communication open and keep the community feeling big and connected, like all around the globe. So being able to do this virtual introduction so that anyone anywhere can be a part of this experience is just super, super cool. Another really awesome thing about it is that this time Naswt is not teaching, I am not teaching. It's actually our initiates who are going to be teaching. These are our initiates. We have initiates in the temple that have been members of the temple and citizens of the temple, and they have been walking this legacy and walking this walk for over 5 years, over 10 years, over 15 years in some cases, like really, really long time. They have like a wealth of experience from doing like spiritual work on a daily basis. They study really vigorously. They have been devoted and committed to the path of Maat. And they have so much information and so much insight that they can share from the perspective of a practitioner, right? Like, sometimes people look at Naswt and they're like, I can never be like Naswt. Naswt is the Naswt, right? And they get really overwhelmed and intimidated by that. We've had people tell us that. But here it is that this opportunity for our initiates to teach. These are people who are citizens. They are walking the walk just like you're walking the walk. They're talking the talk just like you're striving to talk the talk. They remember what it's like to be a beginner. They are able to talk to you guys and bring their own unique perspectives and their own unique insights to the work that we're doing. And so I'm just really excited for them to have this opportunity to share with you all some of the things that they've learned and some of the things that they can teach you all that's going to help to give you a more well-rounded perspective about what it means to be Kemetic in the 21st century, like to help show you what it looks like from their vantage point, like how it is that they live the culture day in and day out, how it is that they walk the walk, how it is they talk the talk, and how it is that you can follow in their footsteps. And ours, right? So I'm just really excited about it. We're in the process of organizing everything, and there's a wealth of sessions that we're going to be offering throughout the course of the day. And it's going to be like 4 hours or so workshop and different sessions that you'll get a chance to go to throughout the day. And it's just going to be really, really cool. And I'm just really excited about so many of the things that they have to teach. And for those of you who are starting on your path, particularly, and those of you who are maybe uncertain about whether or not you want to be Kemetic, or you have questions you need to have answered, or you just really want to talk to some folks who are like, living this path the way that you're trying to live this path. I just feel like this is such a good opportunity for you to do that, to have some of these like real down home conversations and like grounded, down to earth conversations. And so more information is going to be coming about Kemmunion in the Cloud. We'll be talking about, over the next couple of weeks, we'll be talking about the topics that the sessions will be, and I'll be sharing information about who's teaching which topics and things like that. So please stay tuned for that information. Please visit the Kemmunion in the Cloud event page on Facebook through our Temple of a New Facebook page. Click on it that you're interested or that you're coming in order to get regular updates about the events. Yeah, just stay tuned. I'm just really excited about it. And like I said, I'm really, really proud of the initiates for coming together. I'm just super, super excited about, just all the information that they have to share, because that's so essential for us to do, like, as conscious people, that as we gather information, as we grow in our walk, like, we also have to give to people who are coming up behind us or coming up, under us, etc. Like, at one point we were beginners and we learned from someone, and so now it's their turn to give back. And so I'm just super excited to see them in this position, and I know that they're gonna kill it. Um, so yeah, stay tuned for more information about Kemmunion in the Cloud. So yeah, I think that's it as far as announcements that I had to share. So you ready to dive in?
Got some more roll call people signing in.
Yes, Fayetteville, North Carolina.
What was that some Jetty said?
He said, Uncle my aunt and Matet, Uncle Johnson Ed.
Okay.
And then, of course, Lower East Side, Manhattan, and Newark, New Jersey.
Okay, everybody's in the house. Let's get started. So, Yanoe and Iyiti Imatep.
Yana Way.
Away.
So, like Hime had said, we've been offline for a minute, like 3 weeks, right?
Like a month.
A month. So even though we haven't been online, we still been busy. We still been doing consultations. We still have classes. We're still running the temple. We're still filling orders. What's refreshing is that many people are sticking to their daily devotions through this world crisis that we have. I even heard that Infodisi did a Wetland Pet celebration, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's good to see that people are now getting out of the fear and the stuck energy and negotiating their reality on what's the new normal for themselves, and not waiting for anyone else to tell you what your new normal is. You know what your normal can be or should be, or it's, as long as you're safe and responsible, you could figure what does that look like for you. But what's interesting is, like I said, what's refreshing is that people are on fire about their spirituality. It's giving people clarity. A lot of people done a lot of soul searching, are more clear than ever about what and who they are and what they want to do with their spirituality and what they want their spirituality to do for them. While as opposed to before the crises, the people was using the world as a distraction from why they're not as intense or as focused as they might need to be with their spiritual practice. So what we've seen, what we've experienced, and what we've witnessed a lot of people go through is either stress or depression through this whole thing. A lot of people might not admit that they were stressing. A lot of people might not admit that they was depressed. And some people, they have some people actually have a form of self-delusion, and they can't even recognize if they were stressing or even recognize that they were even depressed. So what is stress? Stress is just pressure. When they say pressure busts pipes. One of my favorite books by Inyana Onzant is a book called Acts of Faith. And in one of her discourses, she said, she was talking about stress, and she said, stress is pressure, but under pressure, what will you be? Will you be a marshmallow or will you be a diamond? Life is pressure. So stress isn't necessarily a bad thing. Stress is just a normal phenomenon in life. The weather, the changes of the weather is a stressor, but based off of how responsible you are and how you negotiate your life, that's going to determine if that's a good thing or a bad thing. So we have the 4 seasons, and because the 4 seasons change, that actually stresses the body in a way, but in that stress, it actually strengthens the immune system. Because if you were just in tropical climates all day, then if a weather shift were to happen, you would probably get sick. If you was just in the cold all the time and then you go to a tropical climate, you might get sick that way. But we've been blessed over here in the Western Hemisphere, in the West, we've been blessed with 4 seasons for our body to adapt. So us melanated folks in the Western Hemisphere are the most adaptable people on the planet. So we don't really get a chance to be comfortable, because that's almost a bad word for spiritual people, comfort. Like you want to kind of, if anything, find a comfort in the discomfort, because that is the growth. Your diet could be a stressor. Eating till you're full could be a stressor based off of what type of food that you're actually putting in your body. Exercise is pressure and stress upon the body. But when you approach exercise as a science, then that type of stress, that type of pressure is a good thing. And you have depression, and I think they say one of the definitions, one of the more popular definitions of depression is rage turned inward. Depression is rage turned inward. So what does that mean? We had, in the past 2 seasons, we had a lot of different things going on in the world that's caused us all to have many emotional responses. Some people have had very poor emotional responses to things that's going out in the world. So we're the ones that have to look ourselves in the mirror when we're looking at the state of our communities, the state of our relationships, the state of the world. It's a reflection of what's going on with ourselves. So we have to look ourselves in the mirror and ask, have I been as active as I could have been? Have I been as proactive as I could have been? Or am I being upset because I'm thinking somebody else was supposed to do perhaps something that it was probably my charge to do? So when we come to these hard truths and these hard conclusions, sometimes we get upset with ourselves, and that is the beginning of the rage turned inward. Now, the interesting thing about stress and depression is technically they're not real diseases. You can't catch a stress bug or a virus or a bacteria. There's no depression virus or bacteria. They're chemical imbalances or chemical reactions that occur in the body that are signs and symptoms of a disturbed mind. Now repeat, there are chemical imbalances in the body that come as a result of chemical reactions or hormonal reactions that serve as signs and symbols of a disturbed mind. So the body, as we see it as spiritualists, is a manifestation of the mind. So anytime anything that happens to us in our body, we're supposed to address the mind first. So we can't just treat the body. So any type of disease still starts in the mind first. So now we're talking about people in their daily devotions. Some people say, I think like the old biblical train of thought is, I think Jesus said something about admonishing the people against vain repetitions. So some people don't like organized religion, organized spirituality, scripts of prayer, scripts of ceremony. Some people like to freestyle and things like that. Well, some people are so intimidated. Some people have like a fearful respect or fearful reverence of the Creator that they don't know what to say. So those people are left with the recourse to lean on our enlightened ancestors, because a lot of people like, I don't want to mess up and say the wrong thing. I don't want to do the wrong thing. I don't want to offer the wrong thing. So I'm going to lean on those who actually did it and did it successfully. So some people think it's disingenuous to recite other people's prayers to the Creator, because you're supposed to be having a personal relationship with the Creator. Now here's the thing about that. So yeah, you could have a script like how the Muslims have Salat, the Hebrews have theirs. We have scripts and text with Seba'it inside the Kemetic tradition. The thing is, you're supposed to be contemplating. You're supposed to be saying these things, but trying to really mean it. But how do you actually really mean your prayer? You have to study your prayer. You have to study your worship service line by line and start to deeply contemplate these things that are being said. Why am I saying these things? What is my understanding of the words that I'm saying? So now you study your worship, you study your prayer, you study your script, and now you juxtaposition that with the Seba'it. The Seba'it can meet the wisdom text of Kemmunion and see what our enlightened ancestors said in their wisdom text, and then you begin to see that there's a connection between things that I'm saying in my prayer and the wisdom that our ancestors are expounding upon in the text. And then what happens is just you start recognizing that there's patterns, of life. You be like, oh, that's what that is. Oh, there's patterns. That means there's a rhyme or reason to why things are the way they are. So now I'm beginning to now that you're beginning to understand that there is a intelligence behind this thing that's very subtle. You start learning to see the interconnections of things in life. And now you understand that there's a rhyme or reason. Now life isn't so stressful because now you understand that there's a rhyme or reason. There's subtle forces behind things. Now you don't have to be so depressed because you know that there's a reason for why you feel the way you feel and what may be influencing you. So for what I'm saying is your daily devotions, your deeper reflection upon your spiritual practices and your daily devotion is your first remedy for depression and stress. Because essentially, it's all coming down to work. It's all coming to life is work. When you look at African cultures in villages and temples, it's not like the Shaolin Temple is not all serene. It's very busy. Priests are busy. The teachers are busy. The masters are busy. The students are busy. Go into any village or any community is busy. It's teeming with life. Life is work. Life is effort. Not pointless, not aimless work, not aimless effort, but productive work, productive effort. There's a text from Ankh Shashanki. I'm going to stay in Ankh Shashanki today, and we're going to build with that. There's one Sebai. It says, serve Netter so that the Netter can serve you. Some say serve God so that God can serve you. Serve the force. Serve the divine force so the divine force can serve you. There's always different layers of understanding based off of where you're at when you're experiencing or receiving that truth. So serve Netter so Netter can serve you. So some people think the deity is within. Some people believe that the deity is without. It doesn't matter what you believe. It still says serve that deity so the deity could serve you. So now us as spiritualists, us as Kemites or Kemetiu, there's a way that we eat to serve the divinity, to nourish the divinity that's within. There's a way that we breathe. We all know that we breathe, but there's certain ratios of breathing where we can maximize the so-called prana or the life force that is separate but connected to oxygen. There's a certain way that we breathe to nourish the nectar and serve the nectar that exists within. There's a certain way that we dance. There's a certain way that we stretch like yoga in the ways that feed and nourish and serve the nectar that exists within. So now when you do all of these things conscientiously, when it says serve the nectar so that the nectar can serve you. So now how does that nectar within serve you? That nectar within serves you by giving you what I call available energy. So now when you're breathing correctly, when you're eating correctly, when you're stretching and you're moving correctly, when you have positive association, correct associations, that frees up energy from being stuck. So when you're breathing properly, you can maximize the energy that you're supposed to be pulling from the air. When you eat properly, the body can maximize the nutrition that it's supposed to get from its food, and it's not having to worry about what type of healing reaction I got to give you to get this garbage that you're putting outside my body. So now it's not stuck up in a constipation and indigestion because you're eating right. So now you're eating right, you're processing food right, you're processing energy from the air correctly. Now you have available energy, abundant energy, meaning so after you go to work, because some people still have their 9 to 5, you've got enough energy to come home and now get on the grind for what it is that you want to do or what it is that is your passion in life. And for those that's already entrepreneurs, then I was giving you more insight and inspiration to find new and creative ways to do what it is that you do even better for yourself, for your personal enjoyment, your personal empowerment, as well as the empowerment for the community. Because at the essence, African spirituality is always about community. The New Age made it all just about self. It's about interdependence, not just you, interdependence. So I got to enhance my personal condition while somehow finding a way to make it easier for somebody else also. That's why I said life is work. Life is productive work. serve Netter so the Netter can serve you. So we have the divine force that's within us. What did they say? If you don't use it, you lose it. So that force needs to be used to increase goodness into the world. Neferu into the world. Maat Neferu into the world. It's supposed to be used for that. If not, there's a saying in Shashanki, it says, milk is spoiled in a jug. So if you have this divine force and it's just sitting and it's not being used, the milk will be spoiled. The divine will be spoiled within you. It'll never be active. It'll never be online, and you can't do new and profound and powerful things. There's this phenomenon, there's this thing going on in our community, that the spiritual community, especially the African tradition, the ATR community, when we say Kemmunion, there's a lot of people from other traditions or many traditions that go around bragging about their power. And they use this power to manipulate others. Mainly, from my experience, is mainly men manipulating women and stuff. And some people go around almost like it's bragging rights with this power and this influence that they're using to manipulate people, not for their highest good, not for their own personal highest good, and not for the highest good of the people that you're manipulating. So my thing is, if that power is not being used for good, then it's like the milk that gets spoiled in the jug. It has to ultimately be used for good, because it says in the text also, it says, one who thinks of good becomes the master of it. That is in Metanetzer, the Sesh Metanetzer, or the Rani Kimmit, or the Way 5, we would say, Neb Nefiru, become the master or the owner of what is good. So if you're not using the divinity, if you're not using that power to better your personal circumstances and the circumstances of your family and your community, then you're dying inside. So I challenge you to look at all of these people that's claiming they got all this power, this influence, and that's misusing that power within inside. Notice that they don't have a twinkle in their eye. Notice that they don't have a glow in their skin. Notice that they don't have vibrant health, is because they're actually dying inside, because their milk spoiled in the jug.
Right.
So let's you ready?
Yep.
We're gonna get to a text and go through it. We're gonna learn some things about the culture and contrast some things of how our ancestors did.
Turn on the music. We got somebody saying the music is too loud. All right. Starting here.
From Anui.
At the top. Here. Yeah. Observe the feast of your Netter and repeat its season.
Let's stop there. Observe the feast of your Netter
and repeat its season.
So what does that mean? I think I started off talking about, Infidis, he did a wet repent celebration. So let's build with that. There's not a criticism, it's just I'm just building on the necessity of doing that and keeping that going. It said, observe the feast of your God and repeat its season. So notice it said your God, it didn't say the God. What that means is each temple is dedicated to understanding and harnessing at least one aspect of the divine to its fullest capacity. Yes. I repeat, each temple is dedicated to understanding or harnessing at least one aspect of the divine to its fullest capacity. And it says repeat it in its season, mean do it consistently. Yes. Be consistent. Don't do it one year and don't do it the next unless unforeseen circumstances. Go ahead.
Netter is angry if it is neglected.
Netter is angry if it is neglected. This is a warning against those who come out seeking to be initiated because they were curious, not because they were really wanting and needing to make the necessary shifts and changes and transformations in their life. So we're talking about don't get initiated and don't come in and then all of a sudden neglect your duties.
Right.
Because then you will invoke the wrath, what was known as the wrath.
Put up witnesses when you offer, the first time that you do it. When one comes to seek your record, have them enter you in the roll. When time comes to seek your purchase, it will extol the might of the netter.
Okay. So it says, put up witnesses when you offer, the first time you do it. When one comes to seek your record, have them enter you in the roll. When time comes to seek your purpose, it will extol the might of the God, or the netter. That's what we just witnessed is in live time, how our ancestors charged someone to record them doing so. We have in modern times we have Instagram just as your witness and stuff. Just be like, yo, I need for you to document that I'm doing these things. Imagine if our ancestors didn't make somebody document, we wouldn't have the prayers, we wouldn't have the worship, we wouldn't have the service, we wouldn't have the foundation to do the rituals, because they got someone to document it.
Right.
And it said when it comes to seek your purchase, he said, have them enter you in their role. When time comes to seek your purchase, it will extol the might of the God. So it's saying be unapologetic about your devotion to your Creator. It was telling you to make document of your tithes to your temple, the tithes to your community, to your whole village,
right.
and you allow yourself to be an example of the netter's influence and the netter's reciprocation into your life. That's why I said it will extol the might of the deity. It will extol the might of netter. Go ahead.
Song, dance, incense are his foods.
What is his foods?
Song, dance, incense are his foods.
Did it say animal?
It does not.
Did it say blood?
It does not.
Like, oh my God, is Naswt taking a cheap shot? Like, no, I'm not taking a cheap shot. We remember, we consider ATR, we call it Kemmunion. It means divine, the principles of divine vitalism, pretty much. That is the religion, that is the tradition of all Africa. So there's only one religion, one tradition of all Africa, but it has different cultural expressions or variations. I hope y'all understand that. So the basis of most, if not all, African tradition is going to come down to ancestor veneration and being in tune with nature. How they do it in East Africa might be different than how they do it in West Africa. The Igbo do it might be different than how they do it in Benin. How they do it in Benin may be different than how they do it in Ghana. But they're all doing ancestral veneration, and all of them extol being in tune with nature. So Kemet does the same thing, ancestor veneration, as well as emphasize being in tune with nature. So it says, songs, dance, and incense are his foods. So when you sing a song, it's because you have a song in your heart. When you dance, it's because you have a song in your heart. And what does incense do? Which basically understand, why we use incense? What's the science of incense?
That it helps us to keep the vibration high by burning certain herbs, certain plants, certain oils, certain elements. The resins in incense are high vibrational. They kill bacteria, they clean the air, and they smell good, which also help us to keep a light heart. Because they smell good, we feel good. It reminds us of the goodness of the netter, and it reminds us of our love for the netter and their love for us. And same with our ancestors. That the more that we cultivate that beauty and that goodness, the more that we're reminded of the reciprocal love and feelings that we have for one another.
So the incense attracts the netters to you.
Louder.
The incense attracts the netters to you.
The Kheper said the incense attracts the netter to you.
Correct.
Do you know the word for incense? Anybody? Do y'all know the word for incense? Senetra. He said the incense attracts the netter to it, and through the paronymy or wordplay, the word for incense is senetra. So now, this is what the text says about incense. It says the good action of incense comes from its nature, meaning that which is in the incense gives it its power to do what it is that it does. The good action of incense comes from its nature. That's from Shanki. So now, what does incense? So to bring it down to a science, he said, You said something about the fragrance makes you feel.
Makes you feel good. Makes you feel lighthearted.
So now, according to science, fragrance or smell stimulates the amygdala region of the brain. The amygdala region of the brain is the emotional regions of the brain. So once the emotional regions of the brain, the pineal, pituitary, amygdala get stimulated, they release hormones. Remember, they release either endorphins or what's the stress hormone called, or adrenaline.
Yeah.
Adrenaline or endorphins. Remember, that's a chemical. So these things are responsible for elevated states. So incense, the smell of it can elevate your state. But we're not just talking about any incense, because it says the good action of incense comes from its nature. So let's deal with that. So in the ancient text, they have an incense called, specific incense called kaifi or kifi. In the Seshmetal Netter, that's called kapet. It's made from 14 different ingredients, but it's made by a priest of a certain rank with a certain level of power or hekah that does pronouncements over each 14 of the ingredients as they put it together with that spiritual authority. That is the nature, that is the power that gives the incense action. That is a traditional approach of burning incense. I feel like we've gotten away from that in modern times, just the spirituality of incense, because you could get incense at the dollar store now. See, the difference is if you come from a culture or a society where you were born and raised in that, so your first experience with incense was at the temple with priests in the sacred atmosphere and environment, and it evokes something in you a certain way. So every day, every time after that you smell incense, it's going to take you back to the temple or that experience. And you'll have that hormonal shift, that emotional response to create the chemical reaction in your body that helps you prepare to receive divinity. That's different from us over here, where our first experience from incense might be because you saw your cousin smoking weed and they was burning incense to cover the fragrance of weed. And now 15 years later, now you become spiritual and you be like, it becomes hard for you to embrace the power of incense because you saw incense gets used for something mundane, and that cheap incense from the dollar store was a mundane incense and not a spiritual incense. So once again, you should seek to get your incense from reputable people, spiritual people, possibly people that make their own incense, possibly people that are monks or priests that pray over their incense. Like Prabhuji has we're distributors of Prabhuji, right? Prabhuji has a good brand of incense. When you smell those incense, it automatically puts you in the sacred frame of mind. I have no doubt at all when we burn those incenses. Also Fred Soul's incense, when you burn those incense, it puts you on a certain frequency. You don't even gotta try. It's just that about this statement when it says the good action of the incense comes from its nature. You'll know when you got a true incense or not based off of how it makes you feel without a ritual. You don't even got to do it in a ritualistic manner. When a real incense hits, you're going to feel a certain way. Go ahead. Please.
Receiving prostrations is his wealth. The God does it to magnify his name, but man it is who is inebriated.
So song, dance, and incense are his food.
Receiving prostrations is his wealth. Nectar does it to magnify his name, but it is man who is inebriated.
Nectar does it to magnify his name. And understand, nectar is not the name of the divine force. It is more like a title or a designation that we use so we can have a conversation about it. We're not going to be arguing over what's the true name of the force. It's like we call it the nectar, just as like I said, as a placeholder. But there's Ra, there's Amen Ra, so we can be like Ra. Remember, he said nectar does it to magnify its name. We understand different names or frequencies, they hold certain powers. So we have Amen, which has the secret Hesi Om in it, or in it. So you could just go to magnify the name. We're going to get into that into a minute, but it says, but it is man who is inebriated. What does inebriated mean?
Drunk.
Drunk. Everybody turn around like, drunk.
Why you looking at me?
let's look at it. Receiving prostration is his wealth. So there's richness in prostration. The netter is rich with through our prostrations. But it said man is inebriated. So now we're talking about dance elevates you, song elevates you, incense elevates you. Now we're talking about an elevated state. So inebriation is not drunk from alcohol. Inebriation, we're talking about drunk from an elevated state. So drunk from an elevated state is the word seek in Meronetta, is religious ecstasy or religious trance. In that trance is more like a shift of consciousness or shift of dimension where you could communicate directly and authentically and unabashedly with that creative force inside. That's called seek. So when you have an elevated state from dancing, chanting, and through incense, you almost resemble a drunk person. Like a drunk person who takes alcohol into their body and chemically throws their body off. They start stumbling. They might trip. They might even fall. When you go, like when you have a serious ritual and everybody's in that zone, they start getting drunk with that energy, and they actually might fall out into seek, religious, spiritual trance. Or you'll see some people just get on their knees and they'll just lay down in prostration. Is a humble state. You understand the correlation between, so religious ecstasy, seek is inebriation that resembles drunkenness. So like if a child be like, "Mommy, what's wrong with the curly head? Why he drunk?" You like, he's drunk with the love of God. And so let's go to the next one.
Do not.
Not the next.
Oh. Okay. Where am I starting over here? Offer you to your God.
Yeah.
Offer to your netter. Beware of offending him.
Okay, dear. You see again, it says beware of offending him. So spirituality, African spirituality, whether it's Kemetic, whether it's Yoruba, Ifa, Akan, you have to know the taboos. You have to know the protocols. Remember, it said offer to your God. Each temple, each shrine has their own tradition, and they all have their own way through the science of the priest, how they connect with the deity and what the deity wants and what it expects from us as individuals as well as us as a community. So when you're coming to be a part of it, you need to know your deity, you need to know the taboos, you need to know the protocols of your deity in order not to offend them.
Do not question his images.
Okay. Do not question his images, meaning like, let us not argue over trivialities. Because remember, each tradition, each temple has slightly different traditions, so we're not going to argue over the trivialities of the different temples and their variations on how they present the netter. Go ahead.
Do not accost him when he appears. Do not jostle him in order to carry him. Do not disturb the oracles.
All right. So now this is a lesson in culture and how it manifested back in ancient time and how we have to do it, how we have to adjust it for now. It says, do not question his images, do not accost him when he appears, do not jostle him in order to carry him. Be like, I thought the netter is everything that we could perceive and everything. It's saying him, and it's talking about when you see him, they're talking about grabbing him and jostling him. We're talking about the image, the symbol, the metaphor. In ancient times, you didn't see the deity. Like now, like in contrast to new times, everyone has the statues of the netter. They got it on their coffee tables and stuff, and it's just out in the open to the point where there's no reverence for that anymore. Remember back, 15 years ago before Summit and all that stuff came online, when we saw the statues of the deities, it's like, oh, that's raw. You're like, yo, I got to have that. Now it's just background. Now you can go in the store, any old thrift place or whatever, you can get these things. You can get it online. So now people use it more as decorative. Kind of like the African masks. Those were ritualistic masks that people have, and people are just using them to put on their walls. So people are doing that with the images of the netter. So what happens is when they used to bring that image used to be with back in the back of the temples called the Jessa Jesiru. It means the holiest of the holy. So the temple was considered to be the netter's house. And the netter has its servants, which is the priests and the different faculty, and they serve us as the guests. So when we come to celebrate at God's house, we're actually in the living room and stuff. So when they brought the deity or the image of the deity out, that was a big deal. It's like the master of the house is out. Oh, that's a big deal. So that's why it's telling people like, chill, get some decorum about it, like collect yourself, have respect. This is sacred. Be calm and collected. So that's what it's talking about. Don't jostle them when you carry them. It says don't disturb the oracles. The word for oracle is tepra. Tepra, the oracle is the medium through how the divinity communicates with the people. It said do not disturb the oracle. It's the medium. It is the mouthpiece. The oracle, the tepra, is the mouthpiece on how the netters talk to the people. So through the tepra, you get a tepred. So you come to the deity and you ask the question, and you receive a tepred, which means a charge or order. And it behooves you to follow the charge or the order, or now you're neglecting. And then now you have to beware of offending the deity. So it's talking about don't disturb the oracles. What is it talking about? In the modern sense, don't disturb the oracle means don't come to the netter with trivialities. Don't come to the netter with trivial things. I don't know if Seti Kerr remember we was at, it was like 15 years ago, almost 20, like 15 years ago, we was at a store with a brother who's a priest or initiate, and I think it was around the time of the Feast of Sekhmet. We was just looking to buy outfits and stuff like that, and we was just trying to decide which outfit we was gonna get. This brother pulled out his oracle pieces, his shells, and he did a divination of what outfit to get. And now that's trivial. That's trivial stuff. When you come to the deity, you come to stuff that's going to be consequential in affecting the quality of your life, not trivial stuff. Should I get this outfit, this jacket, or this jacket? Should I answer the phone when people be bugging with that stuff like that. So don't disturb the oracles with the nonsense. Okay.
Be careful. Help to protect him. Let your eye watch out for his wrath.
Okay, be careful. Be careful to protect him. Meaning, don't let no one downplay your divinity. Don't let no one downplay your temple. Don't let no one downplay the legacy. It says protect them. You're like, how do we protect the netter? The netter's supposed to protect me. We're talking about protecting the sanctity of the idea of divinity. That's why African society, they be called them secret societies. That's why initiation is a secret thing, because nobody wants this stuff ridiculed. Nobody wants their sacred stuff ridiculed, and this is what we're going through now in modern times with the proliferation of information on the market. So everyone has this romantic idea what African spirituality is and what it's not. So now people are like, oh, I ain't gotta get initiated, I ain't gotta join the temple, I ain't gotta sit at the feet, I got all these books, I know what you know. And then now some people even decide that it's all nonsense. Some people now, after 25 years of giving Christianity and everything the third degree, now they're imploding on the African system and trying to give it the third degree. So that's why I said protected. These things are secret, therefore they're sacred, and therefore it's not supposed to be mundane. It's not even supposed to be general conversation going on. Initiation is permission to study, not just doing what it is that you want to do on your own terms. Let your eye watch out for his wrath means be circumspect in matters of spirit. Follow the taboo, follow the protocol, the tepred. If not, then you have to prepare for consequence. And consequence is not a negative thing. Consequence is just a natural law of nature. So if I do good, I'm going to receive good. If I do bad, I'm going to receive bad. If I punch you in the face, I might get punched in the face back. So if you don't follow with the netter decrees or charges you, because remember, this quote is telling about you approaching the deity. So you ask for something, is giving it back. So it's telling you to adhere to what you were given back. If not, beware of the consequences. Sometimes it's just safer for you not to know some stuff, because if you don't have the discipline to follow through, then that might not work out so well for you in the end. Continue.
Kiss the ground in his name. He gives power in a million forms. He who magnifies netter is magnified. Netter of this.
Okay, let's stop there.
Okay.
Kiss the ground in his name. Remember the last text said, prostrations are his wealth. And now it's saying, kiss the ground in his name. In Meroneta, that's called Sintita. It means to smell the earth. It's a full prostration. So its cultural expression is a prostration, but metaphysically, it's talking about have a sense of humility when in the presence of the deity. So there's always layers. So there's the cultural expression, and then there's the mental posture or the mental stance. So kiss the ground in his name, meaning have a sense of reverence when you hear the name of Neter. Some Sufis are so sensitive in the Islamic tradition. You have the Sufis, they're mystics. Some Sufis are so sensitive, they go so hard and so intense with their spiritual practice, just by hearing the name of Allah is enough to make them go into a religious trance. It's that serious for certain people out there. That's what it's talking about, kiss the ground in his name. He gives power in the millions of forms. So we say Neter, the creator, the Yit Nut Netir, the father, mother, creator, exists within everything, yet is no one thing. That's what it's talking about, gives power in a million of forms. So what it's saying is creation is divine, creation is God. That's why in the African tradition we have this imperative to be in tune with nature. To be in tune with nature and to serve nature is to serve God. While other traditions are looking for God in holy books, looking for God in people's lectures, when God's metaphor, his symbol is nature. The best way, what is that? The first thing you're going to find on your search for deity is the laws of nature. Okay.
Neter of this earth is the sun in the sky, while his images are on earth.
Repeat that.
Neter of this earth is the sun in the sky, while his images are on earth.
So now that is the expression of as above, so below. The God of the earth is the sun in the sky, while his images are on earth. So you're seeing the Aten, which is the physical disk of the sun, and it has the sun rays coming, and it has the extensions. It terminates in ankhs or hands. So that's as above, so below. So the sun stimulates all life on earth. Nature is the image of the deity. So while his image is on earth, and what does it say?
When incense is given to them as daily food.
Okay, so now here we go back to what it said, the song, dance, and incense are his food. So it goes back, and incense is given to them as daily food. So song, dance, incense, everything that elevates the spirit. Elevated state, seek, religious trance. Elevation, what's the last word?
Daily food.
The last sentence.
Oh, the Lord of risings is satisfied.
So here we're talking about elevations, elevated states, and now we're addressing the Lord of risings. Rising is to elevate. So the owner of elevation is satisfied, is Hetep. So when we sing, we're elevated. When we dance, we're elevated. When we burn incense, we're elevated. It says the Lord of risings itself is satisfied. So now, when we're in this elevated state from dancing, chanting, you good, I'm good, now we tap into a frequency. When we all tap into this frequency, now our mind and our personality is out the way. Now we're more receptive and open to the divine will. And that's how that becomes our own mental agreement that the Neter is satisfied. So I want to close out real quick. Closing thought. I like to tease out some of the theological contents and context of our legacy, because many people avoid it. A lot of people, they get uncomfortable about the deity concepts. Some people believe that the deity is within. Some people believe that the deity is outside of themselves. So the people that believe that the deity is within, they be ridiculing the people that believe that it's outside. The people that believe that it's outside start ridiculing the people that believe that the deity is within. And I find it strange that people think that the divine force or that creative force is so limited that it can't be both. The Bible says, from the dust you came, the dust you shall return, but that's actually from Ankh Shashanki. It says, what comes from the earth returns to the earth. So in our tradition, in the summer, we generally go to Coney Island and we offer fruits to the water. We go to Philly and we offer fruits and flowers to the river. Some of us, after we finish presenting offerings to our deity, we leave our offerings out in nature or in the forest or the edge of the forest, because it says what comes from the earth returns to the earth, because it decomposes, become compost or whatever. So you're not littering when you're leaving fruits and vegetables and things. It returns to the earth. We can eat food and then we defecate it out and it returns to the earth. Y'all understand? So it's one text says about the deity, he said he knows his favorite and gives goods to him who gives to him. That is right there is the manifestation, the ritual manifestation or expression of reciprocation. So if you have rituals and ceremonies that keeps you manifesting or in tune with reciprocation, it doesn't matter that you give an animal or fruits or whatever. Just the fact that you're giving in advance, you're creating an energy pattern to receive from the universe back.
Yep.
But we get ridiculed for things like that because it looks weird on the outside. Because don't water exist in the body too? So they say 70%, right?
Yep.
Don't they say the earth is 70% water, right? Don't air exist? Air is abundant outside, but we gotta breathe air to breathe. We gotta take the food from the earth and we gotta eat it. So why isn't the nectar considered inside as well as out? You need both.
Right.
You need that outer thing to sustain that thing inside. Or else how do you nurture, how do you serve that divinity within without these so-called physical things? As spiritual as we say we are, we need physical things to verify and qualify our spirituality. But we get ridiculed because it looks funny.
Yeah.
That's why it says protect the deity. Like this stuff is secret information because it requires a certain level of maturity in order for you to process and comprehend it. So some of the naysayers in our own communities always have a whole bunch of questions, and they have 1,001 questions, but I say even though you can answer the questions to their liking, it's not even going to matter, because it's not like they're going to be like, okay, I want to be down. I want to, how can I be initiated? I'll say this, the Neteru and our ancestors are not there to pique your curiosity.
Right.
The Neteru and our ancestors are not there for your entertainment. They're not there to amuse you, and our Neteru and our ancestors are not there to have to qualify to you. So if you do learn, if you learn to properly see and listen, you'll find out that our Neteru and our ancestors have already answered questions that you haven't even asked yet. I'm gonna let that marinate. When you know how to listen and when you know how to see, you'll find out that the Neteru and our ancestors have already answered questions that you haven't even asked yet. So they ask, if there's a God, why does he or she let evil proliferate in the world? How do we answer that question? There's two ways. There's a basic way and then there's the traditional way. How do y'all feel about that question? If there's a God, because that's the one that they like to stump everybody with. And it stumps immature people. It's a question that immature people ask. If God is real, why does he let evil proliferate in the world? How do we answer that?
It's Maat. Chaos exists because it has to.
Chaos exists because it has to. You about to say something? Sleep.
Well, no. You want me to expound on that? What I said? No. I mean, at the end of the day, in our tradition, we understand that chaos is the space in which, you know, the Creator births himself. He chooses to make order out of chaos, and the chaos is always existing in the fringes. And what we do, and when we use our imagination, when we birth new things into the world, we are taking the chaos in our lives and we are making order out of it. So there's always going to be a measure of chaos, a measure of evil, a measure of isfet, a measure of bad. And the goal is to try to transmute as much of that into Ma'at. But Ma'at means balance. So there is no means by which you have balance and you only have goodness. That in itself is not even balance. Like, there has to be a measure of chaos and a measure of darkness and a measure of evil, for lack of a better way to phrase that. It seems like it doesn't make sense, but it does at the end of the day. Like, people appreciate goodness because they know what it is to have bad, and so the goodness is that much better and that much sweeter because we're able to contrast it with what's bad. So at the end of the day, the Creator strives to Maat, which is balance. The Creator doesn't strive to like only goodness. The Creator strives to Maat. The universe strives to Maat.
100% correct. We'll keep it simple. If there's, it wasn't even complicated.
It was good.
It wasn't complicated, but like people have a short attention span, and then when you start waxing philosophically, they start being challenged in their comprehension. So if there's a God, why does he let evil proliferate in the world? The answer is because we let it.
Two.
We were put on earth to be successors of Naswt. So evil proliferates because we let it. There's one text, and I think it's on Shashanki. I think it says, if you don't punish wrongdoing, then who will?
Yes.
So evil is run amongst because righteous people, good people let it. And God, the Naswt, the ancestors gave us the power to check it. We're not using our power. We're not using our authority. We're still waiting for the outer deity, the outer force to do something that we've been given to do.
To come save us. The Savior.
Second, the traditional answer from the text of Ankh Shashanki. So once again, if there is a God, why does he let evil proliferate in the world? This is the text. It said, one does not understand the heart of the Naswt until what has decreed has come. Again, one does not. So it's going to be a mystery till it's made known why it was made a mystery to you in the first place. So how do we understand the heart of the God? We have to what? What is God's metaphor? The Naswt's metaphor is nature. So you have to go to the observation of nature. What is natural law? 2, self-reflection and meditation, which is your internal nature. You got external nature, then you have your internal nature. And then 3, tepra. You go to the temple, you go to the priest, who is the master of that science, who works that mouthpiece of God to get the tepred, the charge, the order, the reason, the rhyme, the remedy. So you got nature, self-reflection, oracular reading. And sometimes you could go, it's happened to you as well as myself. Sometimes people come to you for a reading and then the Naswt refuses to talk. I followed protocol. I came to get a reading.
They be like,
ain't talking. Sometimes silence is the answer. So what that means, that's what it says. One does not understand the heart of a Naswt until what he has decreed has come. That means sometimes you're just going to have to go through some things.
Yeah.
And that's why you have to understand karma. You have to understand reincarnation. Those type of concepts explain a lot of things that will never make sense in just your lifetime. When you understand that everything is energy. Energy cannot be created or destroyed.
Right.
Just shifts, changes, and transforms. So you're just at a certain phase of expression of the energy that the Naswt is bestowed within you. So what are we talking about? So certain things you just have to go through. You have karma, you have light karma, and then you have heavy karma. Light karma is stuff like this, like you off cold with your diet, you ate something wrong, you get a detox headache, and in the next couple of days you all right. So yeah, you broke code, you experience the consequences, you move on, and it's negligible. It's not changing the course of your life. But then there's other things. You might have things that happen to you in the past, in this lifetime, that's impacted you, that created a groove in your mind that's causing you to emit incongruent energy to the universe, and to cause you to have to experience more radical or cathartic experiences. I repeat, more radical and cathartic experience. People are like, yo, why am I going through it? And you're gonna go through that till you release yourself from the folly of victimhood. Mm-hmm. Let that marinate. You're gonna have to go through some people, sometime, all of us at some time or another gotta go through some radical and cathartic changes until we release ourselves from the folly of victimhood. So spirituality is not to protect. Spirituality is to protect you in life, but not to protect you from life.
Yep.
There's a certain maturity that's required and expected as you go through your trials. There's a text that says the wise person stays in misfortune until the God is reconciled. The wise person stays in misfortune until the netter is reconciled. What does that word reconcile mean? Reconciliation.
Until Maat is restored.
Till Maat is restored. So the wise person stays in misfortune. So if you're experiencing personal misfortune, you're somehow in violation of that inner netter, that inner deity. Our ego don't like to accept that, but it's the only way it's possible for you to be experiencing misfortune is because you've been in violation. And so until you get your mind and your paradigm right, you will have no peace. It says the work of the netter is a joke to the heart of a fool. That's powerful. The work of the netter is a joke to the heart of a fool. And what's interesting is that's an ancient proverb. So we be romanticizing our ancestors a lot of times. We be like, yo, I got to get back to my ancestors and I got to get to the level that they was at. And yet they have a saying that said the work of netter is a joke to the heart of a fool. That means it was some knucklehead, hard-headed people back then too that was just as disrespectful as some of the people now. So everybody wasn't born enlightened.
Right.
So there was always a contrast of consciousnesses going on. So let's not just romanticize that everybody was walking and levitating and all of that stuff. Or was it prophetic? So the work of the netter is a joke to the heart of the fool. The life of a fool is a burden to netter himself. And that's powerful. Because we say the netter exists within us as us. This is, for that principle, that's why religions be trying to proselytize people. Some people say religion is to control. It may be, some people may have some agendas, but for the most part, people are trying to proselytize because they want to see the divine will on earth. All the essence of all systems is going to come down to morals and ethics. So yes, we could argue and hash out the differences between what is really moral and what is really ethical, but when we're talking morals and ethics, we're still talking about Maat. So when people are trying to proselytize, we're asking you're searching, what will this planet look like if everybody was moral and ethical, if everybody was in their divine consciousness, if everyone had Ma'atic consciousness, what type of planet would this be? So spiritual people have this urgency to hurry up and get everybody on code because we need, remember, evil proliferates because we're not doing what it is that we supposed to do. So when you have people who ignore and ridicule the primacy, the urgency, and the necessity of such, evil will always proliferate in the world. So when that happens and you're being obstinate, now you're not an instrument of the divine will, you're a burden to netter itself. Mm-hmm. That's what that meant. Mm-hmm. So I just want to close it out on that. That's the lesson.
Do our netter. Nobody gave me the tuna fork, so I don't have it on camera. Like, bing, bing, but that was good. Do our netter. Do our for the lesson. I appreciate it. I think everybody else appreciates it too. I didn't see a lot of questions. Excellent analysis, Seba. And I see the session is Sue Sanjetti sharing another term for oracle. Is that Naswt?
Naswt, counsel consultation. Okay.
Oh, a Nej, counsel advice.
To seek like a desert.
Too. All right, well, I guess that's it then. Dua again, everyone, for joining us for today's communion. We will be back 2 weeks from today at 1 p.m., both on Facebook Live and on YouTube Live, to share our next communion. We hope you all will join us at that time. Don't forget to follow our pages either on Facebook or on YouTube or both, so you can stay up to date with event information. When we go live, you'll get notifications and all the other things that we post about and talk about. in between our regular sessions, and we will see you all very, very soon. Dua Neter Shemi Matat.
Yeah, it's powerful.
Dua Kerr.